this budget committee meeting number 1 to order for the Lake County School District number 7. Let's rise and say pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so item 2 is to elect the chairman. Your person. I'd like to nominate Ms. Friendship right there. Should we just do all in favor, or shall we ask you if you'd like to accept it?
I can surely do this.
From a motion. Is all second?
Who made the motion? Oh, it's been moved and seconded that Teresa Decker be elected as our chairperson for the budget committee. All those in favor? Aye.
So, it looks like the first thing is the approval or amendment of the budget committee meeting agenda items.
It should be right there.
Which is the second page.
Right there. That's that one right there.
All right. Agenda items, okay. So operating procedures. Guess I can just run through these.
Run through it,
Form
Well,
of-
we need an approval of the agenda tonight,
Oh,
first.
and there's the agenda.
right there.
You're approving this.
That's the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So, looks like on the agenda tonight, we're going to run through the operating procedures and go through the superintendent budget message, Fund 100, 240, 260, 299, 410, get public input, and pick another meeting date. How does that sound?
We got to get a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded that the agenda items are what we're going to cover tonight. So we're going to move on to operating procedures. Quorum of 6 budget committee members must be present to conduct the business of the budget committee. So we
Oh, you
have,
guys didn't vote. Got to vote.
oh, sorry. It's okay, thank you.
Okay.
We'll get through it. So it was seconded, the motion was made and it was seconded to approve the budget committee meeting agenda items. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
There, good to go.
Okay, thank you. So operating procedures, we'll run quickly here. A quorum of 6 budget committee members must be present to conduct the business of the budget committee. We have 3 budget committee members and then the school board.
So we've got 7 on the floor, so we're good.
Okay. Any member may call for a straw vote to include, adjust, or delete items or amount of money from the proposed budget. Majority of votes will decide the action taken. All committee members are encouraged to request additional information or to give option on any item. Salaries, Object 100, and benefits, Object 200, are the responsibility of the Board of Directors and are subject to ratified collective bargaining agreements. Any questions on that? So can we move next to the superintendent budget message?
There you go. It's included in your packet. I'll go ahead and read it to you. The result of this budget is 2 years of process. House Bill 5017-A was passed into law by the Oregon State Legislative Assembly and the Governor's Office to provide basic school support for K-12 schools. This is a year ago at $7.258 billion level for the 2015-17 biennium. After that budget was passed last summer, an additional $142 million from the common school fund was added to the state budget. after the 2015-16 budget cycle, increasing the total amount for the 2015 biennium to $7.4 billion. This is a significant increase from the 2013-15 biennium, when the amount was funded at $6.65 billion. The 9.1% increase in basic school support to the 2015-17 biennium seems significant. However, current estimates throughout the state continue to make the case that on average $7.5 billion is really needed to sustain and keep the case of 12 schools at break even and no harmless incurred cost increases, which include cost of living, health insurance, PERS, facilities, and the day-to-day operation of the school. Over the course of the 2015-16 school year, the $7.4 billion funding level was able to increase district needs related to adding teaching positions that restored teaching position at Wheaton School, an additional teacher that helped reduce class sizes, full-day kindergarten implementation, and increased elective course opportunities at Lakeview High School. The district moved forward with capital improvements from the general fund, which included the construction of the new bus shop, the replacement of bleachers in the high school gym, renovation of the Union School playground, and the beginning development of the new soccer field. As we move forward with the 2016-17 school year, we are faced with additional capital improvements that include the renovation of the 88 playground, complete the soccer field, and a new phone system that will increase building security. However, with that 2016-17 Lake County School District budget presents a different picture. Due to an overestimate, we project a 2015-16 full-day kindergarten average daily membership caused a considerable shortfall that decreased the state revenue. In addition, the district received notification in June 2015 that Lake County School District 7 would be receiving federal forest timber receipts that flow through to ODE, bringing approximately $300,000 shortfall. Due to these factors, we are forced to significantly reduce the 2016-17 budget. All departments have closely reevaluated their programs and have submitted bare bones budgets. Staffing is also impacted in this budget due to attrition and position eliminations, 2 full-time teaching positions, 2 full-time education positions, 2 full-time clerical positions, and a partial administrator position have been removed from the budget. The administrator one, we're still tinkering with that. We may have to go back and revisit that and take the contingency, but we're still analyzing our administrator FTE. So that might be a source of conversation next week. If there are additional resignations or retirements, there may be more reductions or replaced FTE based on information from the ODE May financial forecast. In addition, we continue to face an aging bus fleet and need to formulate a replacement schedule which is mandated by the Oregon Department of Education. Due to the constraint of the proposed 2016-17 budget, we will not be requesting the replacement of bus for this next fiscal year. However, it will need to be addressed in the 2017-18 budget year. The 2014-15 year brought forth the opportunity to hire a district bus mechanic. That position continues to pay for itself in the amount of costs related to labor and parts. The frequent maintenance that the bus has received has been reduced as a result of adding this bus mechanic to our staff. Other characteristics of this proposed budget include, this is not this year, but it will be next year. I'm just warning you. PERS, the Oregon Public Employees Retirement System rates are static for this year. However, with the overturn of Senate Bill 822 and 861 by the Oregon Supreme Court, will not take effect until next year, and it's going to be a 6% increase and 2% increase over each year for the next 3 years. So, do you have any estimate on what that's going to be? And I haven't heard anything yet either. So, anyway, more to come, but we'll keep you informed as that comes along. Textbooks. This is a big math textbook cycle. This is the math textbook adoption year. However, there's kind of some good financial news on that front. Presenting this budget is the math textbook adoption. The cost is around $60,000, which includes the adoption for grades K through 12. K Kindergarten through 5th grade has elected to postpone the adoption until next year in lieu of their current Engaging Work Eureka Math series that they adopted last year, and are currently finishing the second year of implementation. So usually in these adoptions, case in point, the last big adoption was 2 years ago, and that was the language arts adoption. You have a required subject that's putting a book in every set of hands of every student in the school district. 2 years ago, that language arts adoption was $250,000. So I think the elementary is significantly below that amount. The building budgets from the principals. I compliment all the building administrators. They've done a very fine job in submitting conservative budgets with the emphasis to maintain and sustain the new and returning programs that were built in the 15-16 budget. Health insurance, we're waiting to hear from OEBB. They're going to roll out their information on that here soon. State law increased the rates 8.1% for 15-16. As far as 16-17, we have not heard from OEBB yet what the rate increases will be, but I'm sure with the world of health insurance there will be something. And reminder on that, the district does need to be poised to support any results from negotiations with employee groups in regard to those possible increases. Facilities, we were really attempting to really do a good build back and kind of really do a good renovation on the facilities with budget constraints and kind of pull us back on that. However, they made it necessary for us to prioritize large projects with immediate need from year to year. In the future, we will address a roof replacement schedule of our buildings, window replacement, and one conversation that we brought up a year ago was the upgrade of the CTE facilities, which include electrical power source to the shops, the completion of the paint booth, and the relocation of the greenhouse room at the district office to the grounds here at Lakeview High School. I remind everybody about the DMS North Wing project in the ILC. Currently there's an elevator shaft, an elevator being installed in that building, and the main floor will be renovated. That funding comes from the Meyer Memorial Trust Grant, USDA grants, and various grants. There are no funds from Lake County School District 7 going into that project. So to read about it here, it's currently under construction, totally grant funded $500,000 from Southern Oregon Economic Development District, Meyer Memorial Trust, and they will be used to finish up, as I described, the elevator shaft and the ACC room. To finish the third floor, the Lake County Resource Initiative, Economic Resource Initiative group through Ms. Twait is seeking funds to try to get that completed. In summary, Lake County School District 7 managed to regain some ground in regard to the replacement of FTE and facility upgrades in the 2015-16 school year. Despite the cuts that have been made from the 2016-17 budgets, new programs added in the 2015-16 will remain in place. At this time, it cannot be forecasted what the financial picture holds for the next couple of years. Recent reports from the Oregon School Boards Association indicate that the economic picture is not improving as originally hoped. Estimates indicate there will be a $116 million shortfall on the this is statewide by the way, 2017-18 millennium, and $60 million revenue loss in the 2019-21 fiscal period. I don't know how in the world they forecast those things so far out. They have a crystal ball up, but that's what they stated in the meetings I've been to. The recent wage increase, PERS, COLA, cost of living adjustment, health insurance adjustments will also will continue to be a concern to us as we build budgets in this district. Despite the news ahead, we'll remain optimistic in providing a full range of comprehensive programs for the students of Lake County School District Number 7. Our long-range goals will focus on quality program development that benefits our students, long-range improvements to our infrastructure and transportation. We will be creative in seeking additional revenue opportunities in the form of grants and community-sponsored funding as our district moves forward. Sincerely, Will Football.
we'll move on to reviewing Fund 100. Walk us through.
Sure. Okay. So on the revenue, you guys are looking at, there should be, you guys are good there. So I'm anticipating about 2.6 million in taxes for the current year taxes. And that's staying pretty static with us, because last year in this current year, we're almost close to that $2.6 million mark, which is what we've collected this year. Prior year, I'm roughly looking at 100,000, and typically in county sales taxes, we look at 20,000 roughly in the years past that we've had. The in lieu taxes is 76,000. That's the, and help me answer, isn't that the power, that's not the right word I'm looking for,
Oh, this is the public utility tax.
thank you, that's the
Okay.
one.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And so that's roughly been 73 to 79,000. So I kind of did a little averaging to come up with 76,000. Then our tuition this year is probably going to change in the upcoming year. We've already had some changes. We usually have kiddos from the Adel School District and the Plush School District. They've all moved to Plush, so I have no Adel kiddos, and I have them all in Plush. So Plush is getting a big dose of the tuition reimbursement to us, which they collect the ADM and pass it through to us. MODOC has dropped off this year. I'm anticipating 2 kiddos that have just enrolled, and I'm still anticipating them to continue on in the next year. Our interest rates at LGIP, which is our local government pool, the rates are slowly coming up. So so far this year, we've picked up quite a bit, and we've held quite a bit in our reserve in anticipation for the end of the year, because that always seems to be our big time of year for expenses towards the end with the payroll and paying out contracts, etc. So I'm anticipating roughly 18,000. We will go down in student charges and fees. We've realigned, especially with high school, we've kind of realigned some of those fees to maybe have less fees coming up from them. So in other words, welding fees, construction, what was the third one, Steve?
Well, we took a look at art,
Art, yes. Welding,
tech,
construction, the
tech
tech
fees.
fees.
Telephone.
well, that's
I'm trying to be funny, sorry.
it just cost us 45 minutes.
Your hour and a half just cost you.
Yeah, we're looking at
Eliminating those, and we've built into the budget to, for example, the welding for like the welding glasses, gloves, things like that helps pay for those items. We've built that into the district's budget later on. We'll hit that later on. So we're kind of eliminating those fees. We've had a lot of concerns about charging fees and what they're for and if they're mandatory and a whole laundry list. So we kind of reduced that down a little bit.
So you're saying you want, like, you're talking about reducing them, but the budget looks like you're increasing it.
Right.
Is there
Well-
something else that's gonna,
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
What I'm looking at is what I plan on anticipating collecting this year, which is I'm pulling up, so I apologize, I misspoke. I'm pulling up from Steve from the ASB accounts. He's going to pay those accounts off or zero those accounts at the ASB. So those usually
Okay.
sit at the ASB. So I will have a little bit of money coming up this year. So I apologize, I misquoted you. But we will have about 6,000 coming in just, other student fees that will still stay in place. But what's coming up is about 17,000 this year because I'll zero out those accounts up there. So I apologize. I'm looking at 3 things right here on the screen, so I apologize.
But I'm still.
They're gonna be, well, actually,
50,
you're correct.
60, we budgeted 3,800.
34. So yeah, you're right. You know what? I think that, and we can reduce that down to about 35 probably. Yes, I apologize. I made a mistake. Because that would be the student charges, we anticipate a higher student charge over on 299. So yes, you are correct. So I've doubled that off as 299. So that's incorrect. So we can reduce that down to, I'm just going to round it to 3,500.
So even though that amount is staying static.
Yeah.
Through these, it's coming in a different form?
It could possibly come in a different form, yeah.
But the fees to the kids are lower.
Yeah, we're going to reduce down fees to kids, yeah. Or at least that's what we're talking. FFA charges, I anticipate those to be about 1,000. We've had an increase in the FFA kiddos, and I think that it's gaining full momentum out of there. Let's see, I do have some rentals coming up. United States Forest Service is going to do some 4th grade field trip, which they've requested a rental on a bus, and then we also get funds off of the 6th grade field trip because they also pay for the bus and the bus driver. Now, there's a 5,000 contribution donation for 5,000. That is actually in correlation with Union. We anticipate that they will have a 5,000. They're currently raising money off of the carnival, correct, spring carnival. But it's going to be an in and an out. So in Union, you'll see where it goes right back out. So our safe dividends, they haven't released them. They have said that they will honor those, but they have not released those as of yet. I anticipate about 7,500 off of that. Let's see, our E-rate goes down. Each year it progressively gets lower and lower and lower. So that's just a nature of the beast. So I'm anticipating maybe 5,000 off of that. Moving down into the 2000s, there's a figure there for about 11,000. Those are ESD flow-through funds. We do a lot of kind of some mentoring and different little programs where we end up paying our staff and then they reimburse us. They have to show it up in revenue, in a revenue source and not just pay the expense back because they're either state funds or they're federal funds that is granted to the ESD that comes through to us. Let's see. There's enrichment dollars. They anticipate to have a enrichment from the ESD for about 6,600, and then our counselors grant will stay static this year, about 131,000. So if we pay our counselors out, they reimburse us for part of those counselors and half of a tech FTE. So that seems to be so far staying static. Now, the state school fund. We will actually see, as of course, the estimate that was just released in March, we're going to see about $4,375,000 in state school funds in the upcoming year. That's based on a 999 ADM, weighted ADM. I think we're around 752 actual kiddos between K through 12. But they do a weighted long.
They had weights on specific things, like Union School was a small school, and they received small school correction, so their ADM is an ADM plus half. They receive additional ADM for ELL, special education, and things like that. So those are different, assortment of weights that add on to those different entities that brings that up to the 90% figure.
And remind me, ADM stands for?
Average daily,
Can I ask a question? Is there talk at the state level about the charter schools and the online education and how that affects ADM rates?
There is a little bit of talk about that, whether they have anything kind of settled. I don't know that.
I couldn't tell you, right?
Because I see it in the dollars I distribute out of the county school fund. They saw a significant increase in their EDM, and so the distribution changed. It just was
They
curious on-
received quite a, I think it was a 3-year thing where they received, I can't remember what the amount was, late promotion of ADM, but after 3 years, it falls off back to standard ADM. So,
Yeah, that was just initial after the charter starts.
yeah.
And then, but they're way over 3 years charter.
Yeah, they're a K-8
Yeah,
online
they're
school.
K-8.
Yeah,
And that's-
so,
That's where they're getting their,
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
we get the bonus.
their student, they have about 80 students.
Yeah.
it's
the
hard for
online-
me to understand that
No, we're
that
supposed to
cost
go
for
back
that
and-
online student
Yeah,
is the
it's the
same as
it's
a
the
child
online,
in
yeah,
your
it's the
seat.
online piece that brings that in.
Yeah,
But
so I
they're-
thought
yeah.
there was some talk
And none of
about.
those kids, most of those kids live in the Willamette Valley.
Yeah.
They have four teachers, online teachers, K-8.
Just, I thought at one point in time they were talking about how maybe that's not quite equitable, and so they were,
I think it's kind of their bread and butter now, it really is.
there's gonna be
It's
some
what's
winners
keeping
and
them
losers
going.
if they talk about that online student membership being the same
Yeah.
rate as the resident in your share student.
Right.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay, so, and again, common school fund, we anticipate, and small high school grant, excuse me, we anticipate to see those should just come around at the end of the year. That's still on board. And, let's see here.
Which one is that? Is that the 25?
The common school fund is the 51,000, and the small high school grant is 42,000.
Okay.
Now, so this year, I've learned my lesson. I put federal force fees in because I think I'm going to get them. I did not budget for them last year, and I think Ann and I had a good conversation about those. But basically, as some of you are aware, that takes away from our state school funds, just like our property taxes do. So the long formula that they use, those is actually dollar for dollar takebacks. And so last year I did not budget for them. There was a lot of talk that there wasn't any. Ann knew before I did. So we held that money back because we knew we would end up paying it in May when we have the true up in May coming next month. We did hold that money back, however, we didn't budget for that. So in my mind, and hindsight is always 20/20, of course, but in my mind, it's better, at the end of the year to go, oh, you really didn't get federal force fees, so we'll adjust your state school fund back. So it's nice to get money a little extra in the end and have to take back. So I'm putting it in. I'm going with it. And then, of course, I anticipate our ending fund balance to be roughly 1.2 million. As of right now, that's where we're going to kind of lay out as far as I can forecast. As far as revenue, is there any questions? I did make the change to the 3,500. I apologize. And this is strictly 100. Questions? Roll on.
Roll on.
I love it. Okay. I've actually asked the principals to kind of step in and help us out here tonight. Nobody knows their buildings better than their own principals. And so just an brief, basically, we did do, a very limited budget as far as we pretty much kept everything as we did last year. If you budgeted, a $200 line item for a supply, we went with $200 to reduce. Now, this year we did buy some smart boards and an Elmo, I believe.
Okay.
For a couple of different classrooms, we've kind of pulled those back and said, not this year. We'll get back on track for the following year and make, start adding in those technology pieces that they would
My
like.
knowledge, we have like 3 smartboards like what else? Look at Susan.
I think there's an Elmo down there, is there?
What, dollar figure? I mean,
No,
I'm
no,
not-
stuff.
Stuff,
Stuff.
there were several smart boards, there were probably 5, because it added up to quite a bit. And a set of iPads in the 6th grade.
I
So
believe
6 or so.
first grade also received iPads as well.
And so we turned them all in.
So we trimmed them that way as far as wish lists. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Mrs. Warner to kind of hit the highlights with Union. Then we'll move into Fremont High School, and then I'll have Ms. Brock pick up the MS and LHS. And really, honestly, unless it's a big ticket item, we'll go over that. Otherwise, it's pretty much status quo going across the board, outside of textbooks and options and that sort of thing. So,
So, I was just laughing because I said, I really wish I remembered my glasses. The print is fairly large, and Jesse said he'd tell me what stuff said if I just pointed to it, so we'll address that.
Can I borrow mine?
I'm good. Union's budget stayed fairly intact. Staffing levels are the same at Union for the following year. They did receive a grant that I want to mention to make real clear to the public that their garden grant will be paying for their garden project out there, and we have committed no funding really, just some maintenance time to help them with some installation of some drip systems, irrigation systems, and some oversight for that garden grant project. I can't justify putting in a garden or greenhouse and a garden if we're trimming budgets and leaving things out of the clusters. So at Union, we just trimmed in every subject area from language arts to math, just trimmed everything down just a little bit, and staffing stayed intact. The largest piece that came out of the Union budget was in durable goods. They had budgeted $6,700 each year to replace some very old heavy metal desks that were just becoming really cumbersome for kids. And so that was the biggest chunk of change, single line item that came out of Union's budget. Do you have questions about Union's budget?
Did we have a change? I'm sure I should know this, but, so for instance, line 211 goes from 29,000 to 15.
Okay, so here's, first of all, that's a category of the PERS level, so that's a 1 and a 2. So there's 1 and 2 PERS category is probably a teacher that's been here for 30 years, or something like that. So we can, sometimes what happens is, for example, this year, in comparison to last year, we didn't know exactly who we were going to have in that position.
Okay, so this isn't necessarily a change for this year, it's catching up from the change last year.
Right, so we didn't, if you recall, we have 2 new teachers out
Right.
there, essentially this year that they're very, I think, well, yeah, they'd be tier 3 individuals, but they also, first year, 2-year teachers, they just started out, so they end up in her situation as a 3 instead of 1 or 2.
Right.
So, and keep in mind though that we aren't, as a budget committee, that's also a collective bargaining agreement also, so we need to make sure that even though the salaries are in there as a budget as a whole,
Right.
we're looking consumables and all of that kind of stuff,
So
so.
you're telling me don't ask about
Right?
payroll?
No, I'm kidding. No, it's fine. I'm just expressing that those are
Sure.
collective bargaining agreements.
Any other questions about me?
Last year, the durable supplies were 6,700 and nothing for this year.
That's the desks that she was
That's
just
the desk,
discussing.
yeah, okay.
And they did replace one classroom's worth of desks and chairs and overflowed into another classroom with a few desks. But we're just gonna hold off on that and work on it next year. Okay, there's no other questions on the phone to ADD Fremont.
Sure. This is still union, I think that's like page 4 of the educational media services. So the durable supply there for 5,000, is that like a,
You have to give me a second to catch up. I don't have the same line
Okay.
items as you do,
That's
so.
the grant that I talked about, the
Oh, the
5,000.
in and out, okay.
Yep, that's the in and out.
Oh, yeah, for the media.
The parents club. And there's
That, and that probably will be a little bit higher coming in as revenue, but we don't know that. Their spring carnival money is all dedicated towards new library books. And so we just wanted a placeholder there to make sure that they had a way to take care of that.
We did reduce travel also.
I guess I misspoke as well, Janet, because we did change the staffing level out at Union in that the head teacher stipend was eliminated as part of this cut and those duties will be going back to me. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Our property, hold on a second. Real quick, the property insurance there on page 7. We anticipate a 5% increase, pretty standard for school. For right now, we don't have that final figure. We just anticipate that 5%. So that's the 6234 versus the 5711.
I was still on page 2.
Oh. Do you have questions, Stephanie?
Good.
Oh, good.
Yep, I'm getting there.
And to, you know, like looking at page 8, there's plant operations, you know, cleaning services and that sort of thing. That's our cleaning supplies, etc. You know, I really looked back and tried to narrow down how much we were actually spending, and kind of get that in line a little bit closer. Basically to help out with our budget as far as trimming down. So I really took a pretty good close eye on that. Plus, too, we've got 3 maintenance guys that have kind of helped me out quite a bit with our shipments of cleaning supplies and et cetera. Narrow it down to where they actually inventory it in and check it out, or disperse it out. So we actually have a system now that's keeping a little bit better track, which has been great because I think that we've probably bought 50,000 things of Clorox and we didn't need to, or whatever. So that's been very helpful to minimize that.
Yes. Total office of.
Page 6. So that's in the prior year. Yeah. So that's the prior year. That's what we budgeted last year. And this year we're doing supplies of 70. This is the 2,500 and the travel piece that we were talking about earlier, that she's thinking about over. So it's just essentially was travel.
Did that answer your question, Ann?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what the line was.
Okay.
What category is that?
You'll see on page 11, hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys, but on page 11, the cafeteria fund, with the new status of reduced lunches are now free lunches, essentially. There's no category of reduced. It's pretty much all free lunches. So we get reimbursed from the state a little bit, and it's reimbursed resources also. But that also means that we're having to put more into our general fund, into our cafeteria fund. So that did increase. Plus, the other thing is the cafeteria fund is generally, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, the cafeteria fund generally runs in the red by the time you pay your staff, by the time you pay for food. We do get a lot of commodities, that does help. But you know, we're so remote that we lose out on some of those things, like for fresh lettuce and, you know, those kinds of things. We kind of lose out because we're not, you know, downtown Portland where it's down the street and they can get it a lot fresher than we can here, where, you know, those type of items. So we pay probably a little bit more. We have to come out of Alturas or Klamath to get a lot of our groceries, if you will, and Safeway also. So I'm anticipating 240 to have a substantial 97,000 just out of. So what I did is I broke it up into Union, 80K in Fremont, and DMS LHS. Those are our three cafeteria places. So I split it 97, 97, and 97. So it's a good chunk this year on the transfer. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe we'll. Who knows?
Has the federal reimbursement gone up at all?
No, it's not. We do get a little bit of state, but it's like 40 cents on every meal, you know, and 30 cents on breakfast. So it's really, it's not a lot, which I kind of anticipated this was going to happen when they moved the reduced up, you know, into a 3 category as well. So, and we have a lot of kiddos that qualify for free.
So what percentage of kids at Union qualify for free or reduced lunches?
I believe, I don't have a lot of Union.
25%?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of Union, but I do have a lot of
Much
Union
higher
and
town.
Fremont, yeah. That's my chunk from them.
So the 25% of the kids that qualify for free lunches, as a school district, we're paying $100,000 to feed those kids.
No, she split it up evenly.
I just
between all
split it
three
evenly between the
cafeterias.
schools is all, the only thing I did. I could do it by a percentage. It's easier. Mr. Getty used to do it on a lump sum out of our district-wide funds, if you will. I did it by the school primarily because I have, in my 240, I have an actual union that I keep track of, and ABA and Fremont that I keep track of, and then DMS and LHS that I keep track of. So those three entities, if you will, have their own 240. And then, of course, it gets combined together at the end of the day, but we keep track of it to see, you know, are we ahead of the game at Union? And typically we're ahead of the game at Union. Typically you're looking at Fremont and ABA is where your bulk of your negative balance is going to be, along with DMS and LHS.
It becomes a little convoluted too because ADA and Fremont purchase all the groceries
Yes.
for Union.
Yeah.
And then they divide them up, physically divvy stuff up.
Yeah.
And send it out to Union.
So is your free rate at Fremont now, is it about 50% of the students are getting free?
I think it's more than
It's
that.
more
Is it more than that? I don't know the exact amount right now, but it's more than 50.
It's
think
way more, I want to say 75%.
I think,
Yeah.
around 70-75%.
Okay.
I'd track that for kind of whatever, actually, around 75%.
It's gone up dramatically.
75% of K through 6 or K through 12?
K through 6.
Qualify for free lunches.
It's dramatic and we are feeding a ton of kids breakfast.
Yeah, breakfast and lunch is what we're doing. And then DMS, I think you guys have DMS LHS has a snack also. A break period.
Sure,
They have stuff on the
The first years down there, we would feed the whole breakfast crew with some tables up on the stage. The last 3 years, we've increased the breakfast population so much. We've moved down to main floor of the gym now, because there's that many kids.
And there's 3 full tables, so that's 60 kids per evening.
Yeah.
Have the,
Out of 300.
has it changed what your income, has it changed very much what your income level is to be considered for free lunch? Is that why we have so many more kids, or we just?
You know,
have so
a
much
lot of
poverty.
kids qualify for funding, so like SNAP or TANF, and that automatically qualifies them for a free lunch or a free breakfast situation. So any programs, you know, like that they're already on, then they automatically qualify. And generally what the state does is obviously they have those, you know, they know those individuals. And so every year in August, September, we're constantly uploading because we may or may not get those, like the SNAP number or the TANF number, you know, to verify that they're on it. They actually upload those kiddos to us and they say they're supposed to be at your school, so here it is, and we automatically bang, bang, bang. Now the ones that don't, you know, have any benefits from the state, they do actually have to fill out the application, and then we determine accordingly to wages and, you know, and qualifying through income.
That scale hasn't really changed though.
I don't think it's changed, huh? No.
Our demographics have changed, though we can tell you that by
Yes, they have.
our special ed averages have gone up, and just the amount of kids that our counselors are seeing, and just the population.
Transient population of families moving into town, they're kind of looking at poverty difference.
I'm gonna say $300 to $3,500 a month income for family, 4 or 5. You're qualified for your reduced lunch. If I remember, because I've looked at the form. And we could get the form. It's really interesting because
It's very interesting. It's very sad. Okay.
so until we got to the cafeteria fund, Union really
Union's in the black.
trimmed themselves. They did a good job.
Yeah.
Until the cafeteria.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I came in.
So
They don't do it willingly, so.
tell them thank you very much. 'Cause that was hard.
Any other questions on Union?
Yeah,
Sorry.
anything else to do with move on? Okay, we'll start on ADB then. In the general instruction, Janet and I worked on these line by line, and we just trimmed all of the categories that we thought we could down to what were reasonable according to what had been expensed in the past year. And so there's not a whole lot in that one other than in 480, there was $20,000 there for smart boards, and we took that out in that section. Across the board, in each one of the grade levels, I just trimmed $100, $200, put them back to the budget that they had for 15-16, and then took out technology, hardware, in any of the grade levels that had requested smart boards or iPads. That's kind of the general overview of the grade levels. The Engage New York amount fluctuates quite a bit from grade level to grade level. That's their math series, and it fluctuates depending on whether the teachers are using copies or workbooks and how much. We actually make an inventory, what they've got for copies and everything else, to try and keep this budget in check for the following year. And so that's why it fluctuates quite a bit. And then class size, of course.
We do have, oh, sorry.
What's the computer software, is that with the,
Well, on my wish list earlier, I had asked for an additional classified person to help with math intervention. But I'm learning this deal. And so I said, okay, if I can't have the classified and we have to trim that, I would like to keep so much money in computer software. And so plan B, to offer some math intervention, some math support to our teachers that we don't have staffing to do it, is to offer a subscription to iStations or an online math intervention for them to utilize a couple times a week as they can with computer labs, because we have limited technology, so we don't want to spend a lot on that. And so that was in there, and
we wanted to keep it as long as we could and see if we could do it without trimming that as well. But that 10,000 is a license that'll probably cover us district-wide. The estimation was a little over 10 for district-wide licenses, including union.
What page are we on? Maybe I've gotten there.
Isn't that page 1 of your Fremont
So it's
elementary?
Oh, okay, that's right.
And then classified salary dropped 10,000, so you lost a half of something on page 2, half a person.
1.5, did we?
Page 2. 1.5 licensed and a half classified.
Oh, classified staff. We lost one, and it was a 10 position.
We had a temporary person helping with some
Special education.
special education,
You're looking on page 2, right?
and we're not going to renew that position. We cut our travel budget as well, down to what we had a couple years ago, not last year, but we're back even a couple of years.
Okay, so half the FTE on page 2, but there's one and a half on page 1. Correct?
Wait a minute. Where you at?
Page 1,
Page 1, yes, okay.
we went from 17 to 15.
We did have a teacher that has resigned and will not be back. So there's the one. Do we have a split?
Music.
Oh, music.
Music.
Music, yes. it was
Mr.
touched
Derry's
on.
resignation.
Yes.
And then the temporary position.
So the temp is on page 2.
So the temp is on page 1 or page 2?
Page
Sorry.
2.
On page 2?
Yeah.
So that's 2 FTE.
It's 2.5.
So there's another half somewhere.
The music is half. Mr. Derry was a half-time employee. And then full-time with the Ms. Bauchen's resignation. And then the temporary classified position we didn't renew.
So 1.5 on page 1.
And a full one on
Full
page 2.
Well, it only shows half, going from 1.5 to 1 on page 2.
Because as we juggle around, we've also had a half at the high school and a half at the elementary schools. And so after you get done juggling all of that, I put one back up at the high school, and then we've got one at the elementary school. Am I correct? Did I do that right? Because we had a half
You
split.
did, we moved them around based on student needs, so they could,
So-
this center 2, which is down there, center 4, which is up here, we can move aides back and forth based on student need.
Okay.
So that could,
So they
that's
should flex. So
probably,
that's not necessarily a cut, that's
that's not
an
necessarily
adjustment.
cut, but that's
according
probably
to need.
attributed,
Right.
that's probably attributed to that change that you see.
Okay.
And
So-
page 4 shows 2.
And so here's the deal. So keep in mind, we had a resignation from the teacher, and then we had our music teacher who was going to retire again.
Right.
And then we had a classified staff person that was temporary.
And then
That we're not renewing.
as one of the other tasks, Patsy Derry's resignation was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we had, did you say page 4? So that's in the resource room, so that we had another teacher that fully retired. We had a split situation there. We had a retiree and we had a gal that had a baby towards the
I
end.
don't know if it's show it.
So they split that, they did the job share. The retiree is now fully retired.
So page 4, we're down 2 people. One is our retired resource room person. And is there another one?
It may be employee that was moved up from high school to elementary.
And that's, yeah, that's again a shift, that's a class, part of that is classified, so there's a shift in there between the high school, because they will swap back and forth and pull, and part of the year, I think we had 50/50, you know, as far as.
I guess I can summarize by saying this, all the resource paraprofessionals that we have on board this year will remain, except for 2 total. Two temporaries will not be returned. That's K-12.
And in your budget message, then, those were the two
Those are the two that I described
full-time
in my budget message, yeah.
educationals. Okay. So the 2 full-time teaching positions, one is a resignation.
One is the Balkan resignation, the other one is .5 FTE, Mr. Derry, and the other one is .5 Teresa Whitman in the math coach position down at Fremont School. That's the 2.0. And then what we gained from Mrs. Derry. Mrs. Derry was more or less kind of a watch for those.
Oh,
We
you
just
said-
had, we just had
Tail
savings.
tag.
Yeah, I'm
Tail
sorry.
tag is going
Yes.
full-time.
Yes,
So-
you're correct, yes.
However, Mrs. Derry is at the very top end of her salary schedule here, experience versus Mrs. Tag, so there's some savings on that one.
Let's see, did you go over your textbook adoption in 6th grade?
I haven't yet, I was kind of,
Feeling it?
I was waiting till we were done with some of the questions.
And I gotta find the other.
So overall, K-6, their expenses were trimmed down, $100 amount, or $300, or whatever their previous budget was, or what I thought that they could work with. And then when you get to 6th grade, K-5 opted not to adopt a math series this year. They'd like to spend another year with Engage New York and see what their smarter balance scores look like, look at some of the data and see where they want to go with that. So we reserve the right to adopt at a later time. But 6th grade chose to adopt with the high school. And what happens for those of you that are newer to this process is that very few of our publishers will produce a K-12 product. So we end up breaking somewhere around that 5th, 6th grade year because the majority of the middle schools in the United States are 6, 7, 8 models. And so we sent our 6th grade math program to be continuous with 7 through 12, and they adopted with them. So there's a $10,000 line item. That's what they estimate it'll be close to that. It'll probably be less than that for the 6th grade to adopt math this year.
Anybody got any questions on that? Anything that throws you? I apologize about the sun. I really thought we were going to avoid it.
So I have a question on page 14. It's talking about student transportation. Nothing is budgeted last year, nothing budgeted
We
this year.
put that in the district-wide student transportation, so I pulled it out of there and it will come here in just a bit.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good with ADA? Okay. So moving on, we can start on the DMS. Mr. Brock, if you want
Okay,
to chime in.
page 1, if you look at the 300s, there is a 17,200. That is our Avid grant we received for 17,400 for staff training, travel, some student travel built in there and built into that grant. The 400s, the significant item there is our math textbook up to 16,361. Not sure what the dues and fees are, except for, I'm just guessing, probably Avid.
Yeah. For the most part.
And Avid is your reading?
Avid is our, we have Avid elect in the 7th and 8th grade with our, it's not reading, it's literacy-based teaching strategies. It's our version of RTI.
RTI?
Response to intervention.
It's elementary has RTI, we have Avid. It's a program that we receive grant money for.
And it's a program for what?
Well,
If it's not reading, it's just to help kids learn, or?
it's a college readiness program.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa, it's actually, you guys really should talk about this program a lot more. What's so great about Avid is it has students helping younger students. So besides the teachers all getting on, learning new strategies and techniques, but I think the students helping out younger students actually builds a lot of interactions with.
I think the statewide is just as
It's kind of an innovation too.
National.
Yeah, it's a national. It's pretty big.
Who's 4,400, is that grant?
Part of that does get covered by the grant, part of that is Avid. And we do have some other, dues that we pay, with Indiana, and all like that get split up. The CIS is in there, Career Information System, is that right?
Correct.
And Avid is in there, but yes, Avid is mostly funded by the grant that we have. And we just received the funds here maybe a month ago, maybe?
Yeah. Both are two.
And so most of our stuff is covered by that grant, although we have upfront costs. It kind of reimburses us later on. So we leave it.
So it's like the training costs.
Yeah.
Teachers to get trained.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's grant funded.
Oh, yeah. In fact, they call them, and then they work with us with that, and then they make sure that our teams are in the same.
So we received $34,000 from Nike and over $12,000 from the Southern Oregon Promise Grant. So we've almost received about $50,000 in grants for our Avid program.
So are those funds not accounted for in the funding? The grant funds coming in for Avid, or those?
No, that'd be in our, we got them this year, so it's in it's in this year technically, and then next year it spills over. It's kind of on a funky cycle. We're out of pocket in the prior year, but we get funds. It's kind of sounds good.
So you use the general fund, bring stash it, the site fund, and bring it into the general fund to use it.
No, I have it lumped into the general fund. So it's probably line item. Yeah. I have it up in miscellaneous, really, because I don't have a specific line item. But when we do finance meetings, I usually bring it to your attention, which will probably be in for the April, March, finance meeting. I believe it hit in March, if not, it hit first part of April. So that's one of those things that we'll discuss when we do the finance meeting and say, oh, this is a little bit higher than normal because $17,000 came in from Avid, or from Nike's paper Avid. So that's how we did it.
So we won't have any funds coming in this year for this budget?
We don't know that because when do you start, unless you know that.
We should, if we're following Avid and implementing like we're supposed to, we should receive the 90 grand again.
Yes, every year.
It's a 3-year, I think it's a 3-year in March.
And So where would that be accounted for in the revenue side? Or would it not?
It would be, it's in my general fund. It's not gonna be here because you're looking strictly at expenditures right at the
I
moment.
was looking back to the
Oh, you
first
went back to
page.
revenue, okay. I apologize.
I was moving back.
I probably did not include it in revenue for this year, because of the fact that, I did not realize it. I accounted for it in the current year. So I don't have it in there, is what I'm telling you. But it would end up, as like a line item of either, probably 1990 versus miscellaneous revenue. It would be in that top section. 10,000s.
Okay. So it wasn't accounted for last year or this current year?
Correct, because the time frame when they applied for it was well after we started budgeting.
So what does that do for us? Do we approve it? What's more money coming in?
It's accounted for in our ending fund balance for right now. Now is it a revolving door or do you need to reapply?
You don't have to do a full reapplication, but you do have to do some stuff,
Right.
but it's not a full application.
So those funds, even though we're confident we could get those funds, it's not a guarantee we would get those funds. And it doesn't hurt our state school fund. So it's not a takeaway. So it's not that juggling act that we have to look for.
Okay, so we could actually see more in our beginning fund balance, or we should see more.
I haven't accounted for in that 1.2 million because I knew I had it. Because when I did the revenue, I had cash in hand at that point. So that is in our beginning fund balance. If that makes sense. Okay.
Page 6.
Page 6. Or I mean middle school. I'm sorry. Page 5, 6.
We're not giving you anything on that page.
So what happened here? Okay, so there's 15,000 in prior year in 2210, and this is on page 6. So what we did is we actually, I moved the Avid up to instructional, up into our 1121, which is on page 1. So that's where he's coming up with the
So that's why
travel.
we're not seeing anything here.
Correct.
Different line items.
Exactly. I moved it from there and put it actually in instruction because it is part of our instructional piece.
All of that stuff is.
Yeah, so if you look back at page 1, here, where it says mostly where it says travel, 15,250, and then dues and fees, and then here. What else did we have?
What's improvement in instruction?
That's kind of a, improvement of instruction is kind of to be help our staff, professional development.
It is what it says.
Yeah.
Improvement instruction, professional development, curriculum instruction. It's a pretty broad umbrella.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, so we actually moved that, so I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. 2210 on page 6 got moved up into the instructional piece that he's already discussed about the 15,000 and the 4,400 on page 1. So it's just a simple shift from one place to the other.
You ready? 2 and 3, there's really nothing. 100s and 200s there. Page 4, we're on our ELL. Once again, nothing but 100s and 200s. Page 5 is our middle school counseling. You can see it's 300s and 400s are just the same. Page 6 we discussed. Page 7 is the library. You can see its status quo. Page 8 is some staff development, also mainly related to Avid, but some other middle school staff development programs that we're required to attend, our teachers are required to attend. Page 9 is Office of the Principal. You can see we just ran out. The 300s and the 400s are just ran out the same there. $410s on page 9 is just general classroom supplies that the secretary orders for classroom teachers. Page 10, repair and maintenance, that's a custodial budget for the middle school.
Again, on page 11, that student transportation is moved over to the district-wide side.
Page 12 is our
So I think I'm lost.
postage and printing and binding on that's contracted through ESD.
Where are you at, Teresa? Did we?
Oh. Wrong section. Thank you.
Can't budget is on the middle school.
The ELL, is that just kind of combined with the high school now?
Mhm.
It is.
Yeah.
Any questions on any of that? All good.
Moving on, page 1 of the high school, when you're looking at the 300s and 400s. You've noticed the 420 textbooks is our math textbook adoption. That's why that's up. Consumable supplies are up as well. Page 3 is our SPED, really all 100s, 200s there. Page 4 is related to our extended school year, which is required for our kids who qualify, high needs kids. We have some high needs kids that have extended school year that we're required to provide instruction during the summer months. So that would be the salary there. Page 5 is again the SPED, special education. You can see the 300s and 400s are status quo, even lower than last year. They bought some iPads last year that we didn't need this year.
You'll notice in the high school, special ed, the last 2 budgets, they increased classified FTE. So there's what you lost in elementary, you see the increase in the high school.
Page 6, COIC took a significant cut. What happens when we refer kids to COIC, we send their state school support with them. So what that means is, in order for us to stay in budget, we will be sending less kids to COIC. And some kids that want to go may not have the opportunity to go because of budget cuts. So keeping them here is a financial advantage for us.
So that difference between 75,000 and 50,000, the $20,000.
About three kids.
Okay.
So having those extra teachers will help you to manage that, I'm guessing?
Well, you know, we have to provide alternative education for expulsions and some things that are required that, or we sometimes send kids up there for a half a day. We'll just have to really look at that closer as we place kids up there, knowing that. And last time we did this back in 2009, 2010, when we were facing some similar cuts. And then you can see as we got our budget back, we've been able to increase that back. It's a nice service to have, it really is. But under the circumstances, we felt that was a pretty efficient way to save some money. Page 7.
You go from 154 and cut it by more than half, and then you go back up. Not quite 30,000, and now we're back down. Just looking across
The history,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's based on enrollment to a certain degree, the actual versus.
Yeah, and I think 13, 14, I think we were significantly over budget there that year. And we're not, and you're looking at the 310 there, we're not going to offer summer school as well this summer. That's 11,500.
Just the change in the tuition each year is.
So I guess my question is, what's best for the student? We
Well,
understand our budget, but what's best for the student?
I think some kids, just depends on the kid. Some kids do better up at COIC, with no doubt. We will have to be very, very careful on our referrals. Those kids that really will succeed up there will have, first priority. We won't use it primarily, we won't use it for credit retrieval. We'll keep those kids down here that need credit retrieval and running through our advantage program, through our resource room.
And what kind of impacts are we going to see with students to summer school?
Well, generally I think we had 4 or 5 kids last year that were up there retrieving credits. So there'll be an impact.
That'll affect one of the ones in our graduation rate, right? I know you've explained it to me.
Well, absolutely. Last year primarily there were freshmen up there that had fallen behind in credits.
Oh, okay. That wasn't our seniors.
No. So that got them back on track to graduate.
Right.
Steve, you mentioned the incentive program. I know that there was a licensing issue, there was a shortage of licensing. Is that under the alternative education expense? Is it Advent, those licenses?
No, I think it's coming back, it's coming down the road here. I don't think we're to it yet.
Actually, Steve, isn't the 4,000?
Yeah, that is. The 470 is the vendor license.
That line item for 4,000.
Yep,
computer software one?
yep,
Yeah.
470 on page 6 there.
So is there a growing need for that?
That, I think that gives us about 10 licenses, which we felt that is sufficient.
And that's a program that helps the kids that,
Retrieve credit for failing classes.
there's so much to school now, than just putting them in school and having them all start together and finish together.
Yeah.
It's complex.
It's a different world, that's for sure.
And those licenses will have to be, once again, we'll have to be strategic on how we issue those licenses. Kids that need them for credit retrieval will have first priority over kids that maybe want to get ahead. And we have kids that want to do that as well. But if we have to really take a good look at those licenses that are available. Okay. Nothing on 7 or 8. Comes to 300, 400. 9 is our ELL high school. Just status quo, even a little bit left. Teacher bought some supplies last year that aren't needed this year. The KCC Advanced Diploma Program on page 10. The Oregon Promise has changed that. With the Oregon Promise now is really taking the Advanced Diploma. It's not even called Advanced Diploma. I think the $22,000 reflects about potential of having 3 kids in the program. Right now we have 1 signed up. Kids have to apply for the Oregon Promise, and if they don't qualify for the Oregon Promise, then they can qualify for the Advanced Diploma program. So it's catching those kids that want to go to college that didn't get the Oregon Promise funds. And they've changed the reimbursement requirements for that as well. As we're not going to get 100% reimbursement. We're going to about 75% reimbursement.
And you only have 1 kid signed up right now?
1.
How many did you have last year?
10, I think 10 or 11 sign up. I think 8 or 9 are still in the program.
They go on up to that,
We got 8.
So when do these students have to sign up for this? Or will you know?
The Oregon Promise really kind of complicated it because all those kids had to find out that they had to apply for the Oregon Promise and not get accepted. So they've just got their acceptance letters. They don't know how much they're going to get because the Oregon Promise people they have to wait till their final transcripts. So those kids aren't going to know, until June, middle of June. So that's kind of changed the criteria for enrollment on our end. And KCC is working with us on that as far as all the Klamath schools are in the same boat.
So in years past, we were reimbursed for the
Full.
actual amounts?
Yeah, we would count them as a 50 or senior.
We pulled the ADM and pass on my books.
Okay, so we aren't reimbursed for the full.
Not on the new program.
Right, not on the new one, but, so 15-16 budgeted, we were reimbursed $31,240, and then we
bought books and paid KCC for tuition.
Yes. So it's basically in and out, if you really want to.
the whole amount.
Just about. But
We
they are
actually-
limited by credits.
We actually probably made a little money.
But this doesn't factor in our staff person that monitors those kids, correct? Because that is part of what we do.
We do that through through the school, through the high school.
Right.
Yeah, they don't, our high school counselor is taking that on.
Right. But that isn't reflected in this thing.
No. And there also is stricter requirements for our staff with the new advanced diploma. There's more mandatory check-in with the high school staff, with a designated high school person.
Right. You knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 11, that's our high school counseling. Not much to report. Page 12 is,
Excuse me, you lost, did you lose a person or have a person there? Okay, for counseling?
No, we didn't lose a half a person. There's a person that is doing half counselor, and she's also half sped director. So she gets allocated to different things.
Two different responsibilities.
Yeah.
page 12 is staff development, again, high school staff development, professional development that's required for teachers throughout the school year. Page 13 is our high school library. See, it's down a little bit. Page 14 is another staff development travel piece. It's again, these required trainings that the ODE puts on throughout the school year that we have to send staff for, up to Summer Institute for smarter balance testing, training, various trainings throughout the year. Page 15, Office of the Principal. You can see the 300s and 400s status quo. Last couple of years when we've been flush, I've had a 460 kind of unexpected expenses. We cut that in half. And then our custodial on page 16, cleaning supplies, 410s and 460s, repair and maintenance. Page 18 is our contract through ESD for our printing services. Any questions on the high school, middle school?
Good? Great, fabulous. So moving on into the district office specifically, we have two sections. There'll be a district office section and then there'll be a district-wide section. District office is basically district office and anything in the district-wide hits the whole district, and we can't really be specific to name it to a building. So the district office would pretty much stay status quo on page 1. And within travel and advertising, our legal services we increased this year. Last year we anticipated only signing a 6-month contract with legal, along with, so we have a local and our OSBA, which OSBA provides us with, for the most part, very low cost to us. Our local attorney, we did go into a full-year contract last year after budget season had kind of happened. And so I ramped that up a little bit to accommodate for the full year. Other than that, very, very status quo there. Moving on to the page 2, within our executive administrative services, we did reduce a position in the district office. That is one of the positions that Mr. Campbell spoke about in his budget message. And we did reduce one position there, but we also reduced the travel out of district, which Mr. Cahill felt he could split it in half, rather and hit what he needed to as far as required meetings and that sort of thing, conferences and that. He had extra this year doing meetings that he was new superintendent. He went to some of those meetings.
We had 6 COSA workshops, and of course I'm no longer will be our new superintendent, so those 6 workshops go away, so takes a chunk change.
Moving down, kind of in my domain, I guess, if you will, I did cut my budget, travel budget in half. There's very few travel that I go ahead and participate in. So I did drop that down, knowing where I'm going to be. Audit services, I did take out. We're contracted through ESD, and ESD actually pays our audit fees for us. And so this upcoming year, they pretty much sealed the spot that they can handle those fees. So I went ahead and took that out of ours. Let's see, again, liability insurance, fidelity bonds, property insurance premiums, and that sort of thing. The fidelity bonds, I actually looked back and seen what we were actually paying, and so I reduced that one down. But otherwise, the liability and property insurance and that sort of thing went up due to the 5% projected increase on that. On page 4 is my.
What's the dues and fees? Is there,
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
It's right above liability
640.
insurance.
Oh. Look.
is there a new,
Let me look for it.
I realize,
Then I'd like to know who we use for insurance because the premium went down.
So one question.
Sorry.
Hold on. So the 4,000 consists of some bank service fees that we endure, along with any other fees that I can't justify paying anyplace else that we might get. Bank service fees is a big one that I put in there. I did up that. We had about 2,500 thus far as of probably about January 1, about January 1. So I wanted to make sure that we captured those fees in there. Now, Stephanie, what was your question?
653 went down.
653. Oh, I did. Well, there's good news right there because, I know why. Okay, so last year I budgeted pretty high, but it's a 2% off of what we actually paid. And in that line item, I only actually paid $50,000, so I increased what we actually paid by 5%.
Right.
So I had anticipated, I think if I recall last year, I think they were looking at 7 and 8%. So I ramped it up pretty good. And then it actually ended up being a little bit less than that. And so I take what we actually pay and increase it by the 5% rather than going off of the budget figure. But I know what we paid there. So yeah, that's why. Any other questions? Good. Okay. So fiscal services, page 4. I took the travel out because it's all on my side. The stuff that we went to, I send my payroll clerk to one or two things for payroll law updates, things like that. And I budget her within like 1,000 that I anticipate to use.
So how come on page 4, 240 is more than that?
What's that now? 240 is what?
More than that?
Health and life insurance. So there's several people in that pot that's moved over there. Because of the fact that we have, the obvious, of course, my payroll and my accounts payable is in that realm. They've also had quite a bit of longevity in there. And so we move them fully over to there rather than splitting them. So I move them there, so it looks a lot bigger, and then peace of mind. Which I'm also doing at the process.
I was just looking at the FTEs where we went up by
Right.
0.05 for
Right, but
other payroll expenses.
and keep in mind that my two ladies that I have in there, one is also retired, so she's been there for actually like 30 years, 30 plus years. And so she is, her cap is way different than anybody else's cap because she's been there so long. She's got increases a lot. So her cap is actually higher than Schwetz's. Okay. Page 5, nothing really big there. Any questions regarding the district office? Anything? Good? No, yours is. Okay, so district-wide encompasses obviously everything that I can't narrow down to a specific building. So we do a lot of general stuff there. A lot of my substitutes fit here, so you're looking at the first couple, 3 pages here of substitutes. Also in alternative education, we pulled that out primarily because we're not doing anything in there. So I pulled that out as one less thing we needed to deal with. The ELL, that's salaries. Support services. Okay, this is where we have our spec ed director, who is across the board, half-time counselor, half-time spec ed. I reduced her legal services by 3,000. Yes, we do need those legal services, for special education. Sometimes it's pretty specialized, and we need an attorney for that. So we reduced that because we didn't use it as much as we thought we were in need of it. So I went ahead and reduced it this year. There. Page 6, nothing has changed. Page 7, no change there, that's subs. Page 8 is our assessment coordinator. She rarely travels. We keep $1,000 in there for her. That's pretty status quo for her. And consumable supplies are very status quo. Page 9 is all salaries. And then we do have page 10, we have an office of the principal for sub-classified license that encompasses both ends of the DMS, LHS, ADA, Fremont. Unemployment, we just haven't paid out a lot in unemployment. I do anticipate probably 1 or 2 unemployment claims coming up. So I went ahead and I put 5,000 in as a line item. We did budget 24,000. I was anticipating, or I really wasn't sure what I was anticipating. To be honest with you, because I didn't know what was in the past until I kind of got through the year, knowing if there was any claims out there. So we really don't have a lot of that unless we were to have done a layoff, but they can't really collect plant operation, we did have a retirement this year, and we also added, so that position was a half-time position. We actually went ahead and added for a full, so I've got actually 3 full-time guys out there, which has been tremendous. As far as he pretty much staying on top of a lot of little things that become big things. And so they can kind of repair some of the stuff that happens instead of waiting for it to be very large.
Sure, it costs more money.
Yeah. Our heating, fuel, and that kind of situation hits there. That also hits our geothermal cost, which runs us usually about $7,800 a month-ish, right around there. But our boilers have not kicked on or anything like that, I think one day, just because the geothermal had a problem. So
the geothermal, how much has that saved, do you think?
Oh, I think that's probably saved us quite a bit of money, because if you look back in 13-14, it was $136,000 that we were paying out. And of course, it probably wasn't a bad year. I don't believe that the winter was all that hard. Now you look at this year, the winter was it was cold there for a while, and a lot of snow on the ground. And honestly, I don't anticipate going over. Let me see if I can give you a dollar figure here right quick what I had when we started.
His budget was only when
The budget like 200,000.
Yeah,
Heating fuel.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was outrageous.
Yeah.
It was
We were
huge.
lucky if we get 100.
Yeah. So I think it's been a great benefit, across the board. And like I said, one day that we know of is the boiler's fired, and that was only because the geothermal was broken and the temperature got low enough to where it kicked on. So really, that's great. Yeah.
And it's a planned cost instead of waiting to see what the prices do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just have one time a year that it adjusts a little bit, So, and I think we're probably starting to get pretty leveled out as far as what we use and that sort of thing. So,
And it's much different, the buildings are warmer.
yeah.
They are,
But we did spend $111,000 on heating fuel in 14-15.
That's actual, yes. So we were about 111,000.
And I told the team last year.
Is that heating fuel or is that the geothermal fee?
Does that include the fee?
That includes the geothermal monthly pay.
Is there any way we could break that out so we know how much we are actually spending on fuel? And then on the payment?
Well, your payment is about $7,800 a month. So, roughly.
Because that would give us a real true picture
Same.
of what we used to actually spend.
So you're probably at 94,000 roughly of the geothermal.
So we're only paying less than 25,000 for heating fuel versus 200,000?
13,000 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's great.
You'd have to put it at 326.5. Space there.
I cannot do 326.5. Love to accommodate that one. Come on. Okay, let's see here. And like, again, like I mentioned earlier, especially in this plant operation and maintenance, I really looked at how much we've been spending and how much we've been trending across the board and kind of trimmed it up in that fashion also. So, there's some trimming that went on out of that. I do have some travel costs that we did increase from 14-15 into 15-16 and into 16-17, but we have our own asbestos, we have our own pesticides and that sort of thing, and he has to be trained annually. And so I did move those to this capacity over here.
And also, there's 9,000 in addition for the telephone, is that for the phone system?
That is, yes, that is part of the monthly fee that we'll have for our alarm.
For our new phones.
Phone system and the alarm system that we're planning on still doing, and intercom and that sort of thing. So I broke that out in two pieces. Our 410, which will hit here shortly, we'll have where we actually purchase the hardware and that sort of thing. These are the fees that are going to be associated with that. So there's going to be an increase there. And what we did is just a brief overview on that is we opted for a lease, essentially. So I believe we chose a 5-year lease across the board, but it's local. The guy's in Klamath. I think he's got the same system.
This is a basic telecom.
Yeah. So basically the same situation there. And so I split it up. Hardware versus the fees that we would endure. Okay. Student transportation. I don't anticipate any big thing happening there. I'm short on bus drivers, so if you guys hear me, send them my way. But no change really in my bus driver status. We do have Mr. Roberts, who is our bus mechanic. He's kind of helped out with a lot of our costs there, which has been nice to have him on board and readily available to us. Let's see here. We pulled any travel out of the district there because it's in any travel that the bus drivers do, we account for it in Fund 299 over in that. Fuel, of course, always there. Liability, pretty self-explanatory in that capacity. Internal services. So we have a copier service agreement. That shouldn't change, comes across. Postage, I did drop that down because we actually used less than the 7,000 that we anticipated last year. And I dropped our supplies there down to 14,000, which is paper toners for non-leased copiers, etc. And then staff health services, we have to have Hep vaccines, asbestos, respirator physicals, hearing loss tests, those sorts of things have to happen. We also have first aid and your basic life support that we provide our instruction to. Technology services, let's see here, this is across the board. Let's see, he actually is looking to, one of our servers is about to go down, I'm pretty sure it's the one I'm on. And so that's a big project this summer to replace that server, so we'll have to get that and all of the field with that. So he's anticipating that that's going to have to happen to keep us going. He does have some dues in there. There's like Cisco, Net, Strut we pay, Strut is our program that we get computers and that sort of thing. They rebuild them and we use up of them. So good program to be on. I did not put anything in our architect engineering fees this year. What we are anticipating is that it will be job specific. So in other words, if we do need to have an engineer come in and do some light work for us or whatever, it's going to be for a project, and I need the those fees to go to the specific project. So I removed it out of here and put it, in 450, anticipating any engineer fees there. Short-term debt, we don't have any short-term debt, but we keep $100 there for interest, just for safeguards. Now down to the transfers.
What page you on?
Sorry, 19. So in the transfers, this is everything else except for the cafeteria fund. The Fund 280 transfer, that is our special education. I'm anticipating that as the state drops our funding levels down, that means we backfill with Fund 100. They have dropped it down. I don't have a lot of carryover from this year. In prior years, you've had quite a bit of carryover, which helps you get through the next year. So I'm anticipating, I don't think that we will have that. I'm thinking that we'll be about 54,000, almost 55,000 that we will backfill with the general fund for our expected services, and that is salaries, salary situation. Let's see here, Fund 299, I'm anticipating about 154,000. We'll get to that as far as what we've got going on there, and explain that in a little bit further detail. Now 410, the Fund 410 Equipment Reserve, there you are going to see two things. One is the telephone system on a monthly basis to lease out. The other piece of that is
124,628.
Another piece of that is going to be also inclusive of earmarking money for a new bus. Mr. Cahill had mentioned prior, by 2025 we have to be emissions compliant with our buses. So that means I have 3 buses that are emission compliant. So we forego the bus this year. What we're anticipating doing is buying 2 next year, but we are also looking at propane buses at this point. The state has gone, a lot of the districts have gone to a propane bus. They're a lot cheaper. The maintenance on them is a lot easier than the diesel motors. So there's quite a few benefits. Now, where we will quote unquote fuel them up, I was relieved to hear that Burns bought like 3 or 5 somewhere in that capacity, but they had bought propane buses. So the trick is you put in a propane tank, and any buses that come our way, such as Burns, they may need to fuel up to go back. We fuel them up, I bill them, they reimburse us in the situation. But we are also in talking with Ed Staub in that having a fueling station in some sort. So we're working those details out. So that's just kind of a preview, but we do need to set a little bit of money aside for those buses. Just the bus. If we go with a diesel motor bus that's emission compliance, you're looking probably anywhere from about 130,000 to 137,000. The propane buses, the quotes that were given to me were right around 115.
So we need about 400,000, what is it, 3 buses?
No, I have 3 that are compliant. The rest of them are not.
How many buses?
Oh, let me think here. So there's 4 routes, so there's 4. Everybody has a backup bus, so that's 8, 9. I might have 10 buses back there because I do have a couple that are, that are on standby, that are just sitting there. So I really only have 3 buses that are compliant.
What's our deadline here?
2025.
2025.
So we have a little bit of time, but it's something that's on the forefront. Yeah. We don't want to buy all those buses at once.
So how much of the equipment reserve is for the bus?
Actually, if you'll let me get to 410, because we should be able to cover 410 here today. I have it lined up out. Okay. The 450, we did quite a big chunk of change over there last year. We will have some money carried over in Fund 450. Our main goal, actually by June 30th, is to have the soccer field completely finished. That would wrap us up in this fiscal year. That would be done and it would be all over with. So that's a deadline with that. So in the next year, we have a lot of donations from several sources on an ADA playground to restore that. So our plan of attack there is do what we can with the funds that we have, and kind of do it in pieces and in sections, and get that squared away. It's been a trying project, but we have funds over there that are donation funds, which we will also get to here briefly, or actually won't be till the next budget meeting, so sorry. And it'll be a little bit clearer and not such a haze, but for right now. Then Fund 601.
I have a question about.
Oh, sorry.
450.
Yeah.
So what about the roof for the gym?
We have money set aside for that. We've been up there looking at it, keeping a pretty close eye to it. It is on the forefront. It is one of those things that we
To monitor it regularly.
have to
We
do
had Daryl
something.
Anderson come over, and we have Sam Day. Throughout the winter, when we had snow up there, say we had Sam Day up there a lot.
So, and there's money set aside to replace that roof somewhere, or?
Right, it's in that 450. Yeah, we've kind of got some money allocated sitting there for that. So,
And the reason that we only budgeted 20,000 this year compared to 327 last year is because we have a bunch left over from last year?
I have a lot left over from last year. We had several projects that we anticipated doing last year. We did build the bus barn, and we did the bleachers, thank you. And then we also have the soccer field, which has been an ongoing thing for a while now. But we are very, very close to that. So that piece will be finished up. If my memory serves me correctly, and I haven't looked at 450 in a couple of days, so I apologize if I misquote myself, I will correct it later. But we should be, there's money that will carry over from that 327,000 that we did the transfer for. And so that goes into the pot, and then we also contributed another 20,000. We felt that our priority this year, because all year long we have been talking about how we really, really wanted the intercom and the new phone system for safety within our schools. And so by the time we got really good, honest quotes that we felt comfortable with, was about a month ago, I'm going to be honest with you. So we felt that that was a very big priority, and felt that over the summer, that was a good project to have it in, have our teachers, our staff come in and say, here we are. We've got our phone system, we've got our security, we've got, which was something that they've been very persistent on, but they've also been very patient, knowing that, the numbers and the quotes that I got, I wasn't comfortable with. I just felt like we were missing something, or maybe they were missing something in the quote, until I actually got a hold of Basin Telecom, and we haven't awarded him any contract yet, obviously. However, his bid rises to the top for us, and we're basing off of that bid. But it's nice to have somebody local. He actually came to the schools, walked through every single school, including Union. That made me feel a heck of a lot better than dealing over the phone, trying to describe something. I felt like we were in too big a range. It felt like not being consistent. Fund 601 is a tuition reimbursement that we provide for our staff. We are obligated by a CBA agreement for at least $9,000. We've ramped that up to $11,000. That one's still in kind of limbo right at the moment also. That might come up again on the May 4th budget date as another particular adjustment. Planning on 517,000 in reserves and an unappropriated ending fund balance of 513. Generally, our rule of thumb for us is the combination of the two for an ending fund balance in the next year, so roughly $1,031,000 on that. Any questions on the district-wide segment? Anything? Good?
So what did we have last year? We budgeted for an Indian fund of 968.
Yeah, I believe you're about right. Yeah, 968.
So this year we're bumping that up to 1,000 or a million.
What I would like to do is keep it right close to $1 million, on the upward swing of $1 million. We should always have that available to us. You know, if something happened, number one, number two, we have huge salaries that we pay out at the end of the year. So that piece is nice to have that. We should always have our salaries covered.
So I guess I was just looking at some numbers as we went through and talking about cuts. Things that I guess stood out for me is COIC, 20,000, summer school, 11,500, union, the desks. Do they still need desks? I was kind of unsure.
They do. They have 3 classrooms and they have fulfilled new desks in one of them this year.
And that was 67. That all comes up to 38,200. Somewhere as we go through this budget, if there's some worthy items that we want to slightly adjust that ending fund. I understand we're kind of in a crunch, but we're also providing a service too. It's best for the students.
Well, and I don't know if this will answer your question or not, Dustin.
I'm not sure I have a question.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
He wants to spend money. He gave you his birthday list for Thursday.
You know, and honestly, for the first time, which this is my second budget go around here, with Lake County School District. Last year, you know, myself and the administrators, we really didn't have a collaboration on the budget, I'll be honest with you. This year, I've spent time with each one of them, including Mr. Cahill, individually, and then we have spent probably the last 2 weeks in tight quarters. And what we did is, I mean, we've taken those kind of things in consideration, but then we also felt very comfortable as a team that, one, we could absorb the COIC piece because we could be a little bit more selective in just sending, you know, maybe the kids that just want to go up there or whatever. And I shouldn't even speak on that because I'm not an expert on that situation as Mr. Crock is. But as we collaborated this budget, we worked pretty tight as a team to not be dramatic, you know, one way or the other.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I just know that as you're going through looking for places to cut, you're trying to be a part of the team and trying to throw things out there that are going to have an impact that you can absorb. And so, just me personally, I'm saying that we're going from 968 to $1,031,000. That's almost $60,000 increase in our ending fund. I realize that tough times are yet to come, but is there a room for, you know, what would the administration add back if they had a choice of 1 or 2 things?
Go ahead, Susan.
Asking a question.
It wouldn't
I mean,
be
it's
desks, Dustin. It would be another teacher for this very large 4th grade class. Because we're absorbing the position with 3 4th grade teachers right now. And so we'll be going to 2 5th grade teachers next year, and we will be absorbing that, and we'll have right around 30 kids in our 5th grade classroom. So that would be the first priority for me.
And what roughly does that cost?
teacher.
And the low end would be about 55,000.
Well, actually, on the low end, probably somewhere between 65 and 70 by the time you pay your PERS and your benefits and your health insurance and that sort of thing. So, you know, by the time you have that stuff.
I've been in that, down that building a lot of years too, and I would really like to bring back the half music teacher too. It's tough to juggle with, you know, and electives and everything down there. I like the schedule. And we've been really making a whole effort to try to really bring back and build up the music program in the district. So that'd be my, I kind of have a selfish desire to have been there, but we're there for flexible. That would be the end one.
And two, I think the other thing that you should probably keep in mind is the fact that, you know, because we have a budget, you know, let's just say between now and September 1, when we start school and open the doors, a lot could change. So even though we say, you know, we've got 35 teachers and we lost one, so we have 34 coming in right now, that's not even the right number, but just a number. You know, there's always people that move, or you know, that we may have a teacher or two that actually are their lives change. They're looking for something else. You know, whatever the case may be, anything can happen between now and then. So what the idea is even though that money could probably shift around, then that's when you bring in that 5th grade teacher, or you bring in an avid teacher that they've each requested above and beyond what they already have right now. So even though we have the budget, and as long as we have a capacity to do that shift or even bring that one on, because you can have a high-end teacher that comes to us in July and says, I'm done, you know, and I'm going to retire. Well, chances of us replacing that high-end teacher with another high-end teacher is probably pretty slim. More than likely, it's a first, a second, a third, fourth year teacher. So the scale from here to here is a difference. So there's room to change that. And that's what we are looking for right now. If there's any sort of movement between now and September 1, then we start making differences. So even though you have, you're looking at a budget, you're trying to adopt a budget, it's not set in stone that Stephanie's going to teach 7th grade and that's it. You know, it is, you know.
It's proposed.
Right. Starting. And two, I would rather be a little bit conservative in our expenses. Because like you say, you never know. The gym roof is going to have, you know, even though you budget $30,000 or you budget $50,000 for that gym roof, whatever that dollar figure is, if you have budgeted in there, they tear into it, they look into it, well, there's So I think there's a lot of movement. I don't know if that helps or muddies the water even more. You're not sure either.
I have a question, so I don't know.
I have a question just to follow up on what Mr. Cahill said. I guess I didn't really think about it, but with Mr. Derry retiring as our halftime music teacher, is music gone from K through 6, or do we have
No, basically
another
we're going
halftime?
to take one teacher and have the one teacher go.
So the high school teacher will flex down to grade schools?
She's already doing 2 grades right now, but we're going to have to bring the high
Right
school.
now, the elementary staff is full-time music.
Oh, okay.
They're going to go to halftime in the high school to remain halftime.
And we have done this before, we did it a few years back. Then, Mr. Gary retired the first time, and we brought him back. That's what happened.
You never know. You might come in September 1st and say, I'll do it.
So to round out, that last thought I had, I guess
Okay.
we're working for Susan and Will, I guess, what with the high school, the middle school, that back in, if we could add anything.
Well, COIC would be, big. We're looking at expanding Avid school-wide, and we're gonna have to be really creative under these circumstances to do it. We cut an additional FTE in order to make that budget happen. So we're looking at our current staffing, if we have some folks move on, the walnut shuffle begins.
Okay, any other questions on Fund 100? Right.
We need to put it enough.
Oh, we need to win it?
Yeah, we win the prize.
You better play it.
Right.
Okay, you're responsible.
I
Okay.
think of that every time those things get up there.
Shall we move on to 240?
Yes, yes. Okay, so your revenues for 240, I did lump this, I regret that at just one of the things that I said that I would do it as a separate, location. But I did lump it this year. Basically, I kind of had to really adjust and take a look at what we've actually gotten in. Like I said, it's been a juggling act with federal and state, what they actually are kicking in to us now. I lowered down our food service, which is that first line item of 1,600. Those are our kiddos that don't qualify for free or reduced. They're the ones that that pay full, I guess, price for that. The good thing about this is that the ladies in the office have done a really good job with collecting on some past balances that we've carried over from year to year. We've actually been able to collect a little bit more probably than we anticipated. And they've been staying on top of the kiddos that need to pay. And so that's been nice. And we did implement a new meal program. So it's kind of helped. It's streamlined it a little bit better for us. We can spit bills out. We don't have to hand do them or anything like that. So that's been actually pretty nice in the last year.
Is that Amy?
No, that happens down at the building level.
Okay.
Amy does kind of the applications and
That's right.
now the contributions private, generally we get from Collins McDonald, they usually kick in for milk. So basically I give them a milk count at the end of the year and they are gracious enough to send us a check. So I've included that. I haven't heard otherwise, so we're going to roll with that. Now the state sources, I did increase that a little bit because, like I said, there's a lot more kids on the reduced and the free lunches that it's now technically free because we do get state matching funds that I kind of briefly touched on earlier that we actually hadn't collected in prior years. We weren't eligible or there wasn't the funds there, didn't meet the criteria, but now we're meeting that criteria. So we do get the state funds. And then of course we get the federal resources.
I find it very interesting though that our numbers look neat go up and our revenue goes down.
I know. And then, they want you to feed them certain things. Yeah, it's not a lot of sense, but, here we are. Here we are. So the 291,000 should be the 97,000 that I took across the board there. Our beginning fund balance is 67,150, and that is in the negative, like I had talked talked about before. That's overall, that's all three schools, so. Any questions? We kind of talked about that extensively. The first one is actually Union School. Pretty well just status quo across there. Commodities used, I believe that, I reduced that 2,000 out of there, because we absorbed that at Fremont and Hay, and like Susan said, they divvy it out to Union, so I kind of absorbed that back out of there and have it in Fremont and Hay. Backside is Fremont and Hay. Comes across now, there's a depreciable placement of property, that 8,000. We're anticipating an oven to go down at any moment, so we keep putting it in there in case that does happen. We've got the capacity to replace that oven. And I just told you wrong on the commodities used piece. I took it out everywhere. I apologize.
Looks like it's out of the revenue too, so maybe it just is a kind of a, it's hard to.
It's
that
hard,
program.
yeah, it is. Let's see, I'm looking really quick, like, to see if there's a lot of change here, and I don't see it. 16, 6. So I think pretty much that's the long and short. We've had quite a big discussion about the cafeteria fund anyway, so unless you got questions, we can roll on. Okay.
Say, if you keep us here long enough, we won't have any great thing. Then you could just breeze through it, we wouldn't have any questions.
Well, pretty quick, I'm probably going to start actually really a little bit off. 3 o'clock was early this morning. Moving on to the Ag Farm Fund, they gain a little interest from us out of the LGIP pool that we pull over there to them. Donations, they do have some rentals. They rent that piece of property out there on the Ag Farm and get a kickback off of the hay that's produced off of there. Plus, last year we did put some cattle in there. Holiday Ranches came in and put some cattle in. We're probably anticipating that, just kind of depends on haying season and how that goes. And then miscellaneous revenue is off their plant sale, and I believe that they've had miscellaneous other items. And I anticipate that they'll do quite well off of their plant sale this year. When is that?
May 67.
Yeah, it's coming quickly. So, I anticipate great things out of the town fund. We've got a couple of teachers in there that are kind of gung-ho, so it's fun. They're doing great. I've spied the plant, the greenhouse over there. Looking pretty good over there. The expenditures, they're wanting to put in a pump at the well over on the property over on Stock Drive. They've got an ag advisory committee together, which I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, the ag advisory helped Christy out with her budget this year, correct? 260 a little bit?
Well, yeah, they talk about it, but it's not, she builds the budget.
Sure, but as far as the pump and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
I think
They
they're,
gave quite a bit of guidance on the
yeah.
some of the ranchers were on that.
The consumable supply up to
27,000, yeah, let me grab my, apologize, let me get it up here. They're wanting, they've actually, the greenhouse, and some floral design, is what they're wanting to do next year. So a lot more action with the greenhouse, along with another believe another class of floral design, maybe.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Probably not gonna happen, but.
But is that what that increase is from 89 to 27,000?
Yes, yes. Plus, they're probably gonna have some supplies off that pump as well.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is
Yeah,
that
they're
through
gonna
the
have
pump?
some. The pump is up there in the 16,000 range, and then they're also gonna, they'll have some supplies that they'll have to add to that pump. I'm pretty sure. And Leanne, I don't know if James is on that, or maybe you. Maybe let me take that back. So I'm gonna guess that there's quite a bit of planning going on.
Well, I don't know the answer to this, but what happened with the grant that Fred applied for?
We did not get it.
None of it?
None of it.
It's
Not done. So, we were very hugely disappointed. And you were on the committee, put a lot of time in that. But, the priorities and the schools that were funded, kind of the spirit of the grant was revitalizing CTE programs. The schools that won it, I'll give you a case in point, Redmond High School. I called the CTE director up there and asked him what the secret to their success was. And, well, they, instead of revitalizing the program, they invented all these new and innovative programs under student entrepreneurships in CTE, which in my mind's eye, when I read the grant, and I looked over at Fred Smith and everything, it didn't capture our own concern, the spirit of that grant. It sounds like a time sore loser now.
Thanks, Leanne.
Just to be blunt.
Pump would be.
We have talked about that, and I think that Mrs. Reese and the Ag Advisory Committee have been pretty steadily on trying to make that happen this next year. So I know it's been in contact there. So
Is this fund balance?
I'm about $389 off. I'm not zero. But I also don't anticipate that, they usually carry a balance in there at the beginning of that balance, so, yeah, so I let that 389, just let it not be zero at this point. Any other questions on the ag farm? Good to go? Moving on? Okay. So $299, I've got Jesse to help me out with that a little bit here. We've got several things that have happened with $299. Let me get it. Okay. So in the revenue piece of $299, let's see here. So I increased the athletic gate receipts because on my end, when I get their fees for the ASB, it really theoretically should go to the athletic gate because of the fact that those kiddos get them. So there's an increase there. That takes part of it. Plus, what we've collected so far, there's been quite a bit of actual participation this year, so I've been pretty impressed with that. So I went ahead and bumped it up. I believe, let's see, my date here was April 4th, and they had collected 21,000. So that's quite a bit of a jump that we've actually collected on the gate. So I went ahead and went with that. Yeah. Let's see here. I did lower down donations and fundraising from 20,000 to 10,000. At one point in time, there was a piece of the booster club in there, and I think that we decided that kind of diminishing a little, slowly moving away from them. So I went ahead and lowered that down for now. Other than that, I do have an interfund transfer of about $154,000. that I'm anticipating. And I'm anticipating a beginning fund balance of about 2,900. Moving through it, this first page is elementary school that we don't have anymore. The second page, there is DMS volleyball, which we brought back last year, or this year, I guess I should say. We do offer a stipend there, but pretty much our supplies stay pretty well the same, a little bit lower. And then moving on down, boys basketball. Now Jesse, you want to step in there with the boys and girls
You
basketball?
want page 2?
Page 2 and 3.
Okay, that's middle school basketball. We initially wanted to bring that back, and it just isn't gonna work. So what you're seeing there is, we're gonna bring it back to the school, run it through the school, with volunteers, we'll have the coaches volunteers. That money that you see there is the entry fee for the league that they'll each be in, and we'll do a pay to play, and it's just gonna be flow through basically. So that's just showing what the pay to play, or what the fee will be to get into the league, so.
Is that because other schools that we would play are doing the same thing, or?
Yeah, there's, that league has all those local schools over there, and they schedule, it's not through the county school district like, say, track or volleyball is. It's through the local association over there, and I've talked to him, and Tule Lake does this with their teams, they run it through the school.
Right.
And he would be okay with that, and so he's letting us do that, and have some, oversight on the coaches and the things that can go on.
But I mean, the Klamath-Basin schools that we play,
Oh yeah, it's Ponderosa, Brixner, the Mazama Henley feeder school,
Okay.
Henley Middle, Lost River, it's all those.
they're all doing that league.
Yeah.
So we're, okay.
Yeah, that is the,
We're not going to Gerlach.
no.
You can go on your own.
No, you wanted to go there.
7th grade only though.
Jesse, go ahead and, I kind of
Okay,
ramrodded you, sorry.
track, that's middle school track.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the same, it's nothing really changed there. In the 300 and 400s, everything was status quo.
Are we only paying one?
One stipend on that.
One stipend that they're being split. So page 5, we're going to get into our high school sports, and football is one I want to point to on page 5 and 6. That one is, everything was pretty much the same, you'll see, until you get down to where officials were up, our cost was up a little bit on officials, and it's going to go up a little bit more because of the requirements put forth by OSAA and the way we have to play our JV varsity games. So we could see a little bit of an increase in officials, so that explains that piece there.
Where are you at?
I'm on page 5, on 319, page 5, and I ended up, now I'm going to page 6, and you'll see 460 at the very top. That's the big change in football, and that is football's on a rotation to receive uniforms this year. And the way we do football uniforms is we just get one set with the rotations. We're not buying home and aways. We're just buying this year we're getting blues, right? So we're getting our home jerseys this year, which we haven't replaced since your first year. So that's what that cost is for football. So that's really the big change. If you also go back, I apologize, go back to page 5 and 322, you'll see in repair and maintenance it went from 15 to 25. That's another big change, and that's just stemming from the costs that we face for recertification of all of our helmets and stuff. And in today's world with concussions and stuff, we thought that was an important thing. We had to make sure we're on top of the recertifications. So that's where that extra cost is. Back to page 6, volleyball stayed the same, real close, under a little bit there. Page 7. What is that? It doesn't say it on here. Jenna, do you have that? The bottom of page 6, top of page 7 got cut off.
33.
It's 32. Or no, it's
Girls basketball.
It's 33, it's cross country.
cross country, okay. So cross country, no changes there either with 3 and 400s. That'll stay pretty much status quo. Boys basketball on the bottom of page 7. We had a uniform last year, so things went down in boys basketball. Didn't go down quite as much as it would have, but officials, we bumped up officials because their costs are going up a little bit, so we're a little low on officials. So that's the difference in boys basketball, but it's still under from last year's. Wrestling is quite a bit under. Dues and fees, we went a little less on dues and fees. They didn't do all that. And then girls basketball, same as boys. Upped officials a little bit, but they're off the uniform, so we're done. We're below last year there.
We go back to wrestling.
Sure.
So I know that they are one of the clubs or sports that has extra costs.
Nothing changed with wrestling. The cost you see is not a 300 or 400, it's a salary. It's a coach. So the reason it's under is
Oh, okay.
and that's,
Because that's somewhere where I would like to make sure.
no, none of their other stuff changed. We left that as it was.
I'm saying it, I can't think
Oh,
of
gotcha.
it. For another day.
Girls basketball, top track, bottom of page 9. Track's under, again, we came in under there, they stayed where they were. And 39 is the athletic director piece, and that is up. And the reason that is up is because I changed the way we last year we budgeted for huddle for our film system out of each sport. And rather than do that separately, I just took the whole fee out of and put it in the athletic director piece. That's the main difference there. So
Which number is the huddle?
that's gonna be
It's under the depreciable new equipment, 541 to 3,000.
yeah.
And that's so they can watch film?
It's our film exchange. It's for all of our yeah. They can upload film. They can share with kids. It's how our football coaches exchange film rather than driving them to the woods and trading them off like they used to. We've used that a couple times. So yeah. Right. Sports med is area 52. That stayed the same. Baseball and softball stayed about the same. Baseball stayed. Softball went down a little bit. Soccer, girls soccer, pretty much stayed status quo as well. If you go to page 14,
Where's boys soccer?
question, Janet?
On.
I don't have it either.
Oh, it's right here, you skipped it.
Where?
It's on page 11 and it got cut off. Yeah. Page 11, it's that very first half there. It says sub area 54.
That sounds ominous.
Okay. Boys soccer.
Okay,
Sorry about that. I'm not sure.
it didn't change.
There's times that me and Cameron have issues.
You drop into the area 54.
So we'll go to page 14 real quick, and there's a little extra cost there because we kicked in a little help for some consumables or whatever for ski team, cheer, and equestrian. So we threw in some extra there in those 2 spots.
What'd you buy?
Nothing yet. The budget.
Oh, they're giving it to us.
And then just to clarify that we also have another another piece of that, which is golf, but, they use the expedition frequently to go to their tournaments. And so that's our contribution to them is every trip they take the expedition or the minibus that they keep it to do. So we felt that that was evenly split across the board.
Is that why the travel attitude went up?
Where are you at?
15, 342. That went up and it seems like. You're right there.
That was FFA.
60 is, 60 is FFA advisor. So what we did is we pulled her travel out of Fund 100 and actually put it with her FFA advisor piece instead of having it in the Fund 100 under her instructional piece.
Just jumps from last year's.
It would, yeah. Yeah, we did a shift from 100 to this. So those are totals. So that's 1132 total. Well, a piece of it. Yeah. Stay with me, we are so close.
I think
So
that's,
close.
I think that's all. Any questions on the 299?
The pay to play fees, are those staying the same, $100 per sport?
That's our recommendation. The board has
So just, it pains me to ask you a question because it's getting late.
Yeah.
I want to know
What
the
you're
answer.
saying is it's going to take a while.
No.
I'll give you a short answer.
The gate fees, is there a reason why we cannot collect gate fees from track, soccer, baseball, softball?
Yeah, our facility is one of the big barriers. I mean, I'm not sure how you would manage that, like at a baseball. I mean, you've seen the trucks parked out and they don't really enter. So I'm not,
I just guess I'm curious from the standpoint, I mean, there's nothing from OSAA that says we can't.
no.
And so, I mean, track, obviously, there's a fence all the way around the facility. Baseball, you can have certain entrance points to somebody collecting fees as they come in. Soccer, now with the new soccer field, that's gonna be, that seems like that will building pilots too. I don't know, it just seems like we're missing a lot of opportunities for.
Yeah, because historically, schools don't charge in the spring.
I was gonna say, that was probably, other schools don't charge us when we go, visit.
I don't think there's any, other than for an endowment game.
Biggest thing. Well, we could do it.
Somebody's gonna say.
That's a great question. Other than paying for, I think, a state player, USL baseball last year, in Bonanza where they like put a gate across the road.
Yeah, they have to play on.
Playoff, district track we charge.
Okay, so that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Come around and knock on the window.
Send the kids around.
No, maybe in a.
Your annual track meet or something, say, have me drive
It's no different.
And it could be, you could put it as in the donation.
But soccer, softball, baseball is a matter of controlling the access.
Any other questions on 299?
Razor.
Let the kids think it's.
Okay, so let's move on to 410, which again is the equipment. Right now I have anticipated beginning fund balance of about $39,800. Again, I'm anticipating a transfer of about $60,000. Now, there's about $64,628 that I have to put in as a bus depreciation. We do have a transportation grant The bus depreciation in the prior year was $64,628 added on this year. So that's in on the revenue for $164,428 now. Any questions on that before I just plow on? So moving on into page 1, there's computer hardware for $5,000. I do kind of keep that in there because admin office, maintenance, association, computers and printers, those are the ones that tend to break. And so we kind of have a reserve there for them in case that also could kick in anywhere in the district really if there was a huge problem somewhere. So moving down into the 40,000, the list for the 40,000, we have a copier lease of $1,029 per month. That's a piece of that. Then we have the hardware for the phone, which is the intercom, that sort of thing. That tallies out to be about $2,100, almost $2,200 a month, $2,153 to be exact. So I budgeted for $40,000 there on copier lease and phone lease. I kept $5,000 in. Moving on to the next page. Sorry. I kept $5,000 in for durable supplies. It's just mainly miscellaneous durables. Anything that comes up that we might end up needing. Let's see. I do have line this up here. So the next line item down was about $7,000. In prior years, they thought that they needed second tractors and pickups and miscellaneous equipment and mowers and that sort of thing. Honestly, for as much as we use the pickups, they're fine. John's been working on replacing parts and that sort of thing. So my maintenance guys felt like we could reduce that down. They would like to get a box scraper, which would do a little scraping out there on some of the dirt roads that have tractor forks and a flatbed trailer. Not a priority. They realize that they may get those, depending. And then the last line item there is $104,500. We did have $34,000 last year budgeted for that bus, so I needed to add to that. The idea is you add to it every year until you can get a bus. So not that the bus will be on the forefront this year. The forefront is that phone hardware. However, the propane, I'm budgeting for a propane bus. I'm advocating that way. But for a school bus, we need to keep it going. And that's how the bus depreciation also works in the fact that you put it in so that you always have money going towards purchasing those new buses is the idea behind that. And again, it's out of balance again, but that also goes into ending fund balance, and we try to keep balances in there. So, any questions on 410? Any other concerns before we wrap it up tonight? Yes, if you guys could, I know you guys have been making notes and that sort of thing, but if you could just sign somewhere where I can see your name, or inside there, whichever, then that way I'll make sure. That way I can add the rest of our funds in for the next budget meeting, and have the rest of our materials that we will need. I anticipate that the second budget meeting session will wrap us up. Again, that's a lot of, we got the big ones out of the way tonight, really. A lot of the ones that we go over on the second is title grants and sped grants and those kinds of things that are what they are. So there's not much excitement. So I anticipate May 4th, I believe, is that right? May 4th at 6 here. We had to cancel the 27th because we did not have a quorum, which I think I talked to most of you guys, but to see where you guys were at. So, any other questions? All good?
do have to do Article 11.
Yeah.
Is there any public input or discussion? All right, our next committee meeting will be Wednesday, May 4th at 6 PM here.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Yes.
I move. So moved.
We adjourned the meeting.
Stephanie is moved and Ann has seconded that we adjourn the meeting. So meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.